Right, let's continue our conversation now with Public Service Minister Senzo Mchunu, who joins us via our video link as we reflect on the path towards professionalizing the public service. And this is on the back of the newsletter released by President Cyril Ramaphosa just yesterday, revealing that government is in fact working towards this end. Minister, apologies for those technical gremlins. Hopefully you can hear me now. We're out of time, so let me just try and move on. You know, we also know that, Minister, part of the difficulty that you might be facing is related to the wage negotiations that are likely to take place with public sector unions. In fact, we know now that part of the demands that are going to be placed before the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council is that unions want a CPI plus 4% increase in their wages. It's unlikely to take place, dare I say, given what we heard from the finance minister in his budget speech. Are you worried that this heated tussle will frustrate the process towards professionalizing the public service?
Indeed, it's a challenge that Labour and ourselves, government have, but we're not the only players. I want to put that categorically. There are two other players that we have to consider when dealing with this matter. Therefore, the third party to this is the citizens of the country that we are professing to be serving. And the fourth partner in this is the service itself. In other words, there are four components that we have to look into the eye as we start discussions on the wage bill, on the remuneration for public servants. It is the citizens, it is government, it is the service itself, quality in particular, and the public servants. So all four components need to be put on the table and considered in a fair manner, in an equitable manner, and without any prejudice. Yes, it's a challenge that we are going to have to face amid the challenges of the country in terms of the economy and the fiscus of the state. But this is not the first time there's a government, and this is not the first time there's Labour, and we should be able to find one another, no matter how hard or difficult the issues are going to be. But we shouldn't start with an attitude that says that we're not going to be able to resolve anything, and that it's going to be a fight. Why a fight? We're citizens of the country ourselves, and want to serve the public.
Yeah.
And therefore, we should be open-minded as we approach these negotiations, and go over them and do our job as a government and as public servants on the other hand, and promote service to our people.
Speaking about being open-minded, a big part of what unions are saying is that the reason why government can't supposedly afford these increases is because of things like unchecked corruption within government. Do they have a point? Look,
corruption is very much a factor in South Africa. Whether you're talking negotiations for increase on salaries, whether you're talking just service delivery to the citizens, whether you're talking image of the country and the integrity and the ethics of the country, that's a common factor that is worrying all of us. It doesn't worry us only in the context of salaries. Now, what then do we say? That's not necessarily correct per se to say the reason why it can't be afforded, because even if the country was relatively free of corruption, you still had to look at fairness of salaries that you are paying in relation to the rest of other jobs in the country, both in the public and private sector. And you would have developed necessary criteria that would meet the expectations of the citizens, the public servants, government, and everybody that is involved.
Right.
And therefore, I think we should, while we acknowledge that South Africa has been ravaged by corruption to a large extent, but when we deal with salary increases, let's just face squarely what is what is going to be fair. I mean, there are other things. I sometimes work in Cape Town because that's the seat of our legislature. There are issues that we need to look at because public service provides that if I go there with a PA, the ticket is paid for by government, the hotel, the food, but then you have to pay, government has to pay something called an allowance just because my PA is not in Pretoria, is in Cape Town. Now we've got to be open, we've got to be fair and say, is this fair to the public? And if it's fair, let's continue with it. But if it's unfair, we need to look at it. That's what I'm talking about, that we should be fair-minded, open-minded, and not be rigid and guided by what satisfies us in the public sector, in the public service alone, and in total ignorance and disregard for other players.
Minister Senzo Mchunu, thanks very much. Apologies for cutting you off there. I think your point comes through and is well made. I really appreciate you coming onto the AM report today. Senzo Mchunu is Minister of Public Service and Administration.